This is Centered, where faith meets everyday life. Our hope is to invite you into a better story, a story where you're made new through Jesus, living with God-given purpose, and experiencing peace, joy, and freedom. Together, we'll explore what it means to keep Jesus at the center of where we live, work, and play, bringing beauty, meaning, and renewal to every part of our lives. Thank you for joining us. Here are your hosts, David and Ben.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Centered Podcast. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by
David.
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 It's definitely two syllables. Thank you for helping us with that. Were you going to say
debating
Dave?
on how do I introduce myself.
Were you going to say Dave?
I was going to say Dave. Yeah.
Oh,
Dave.
Yeah. I always feel like
I was just trying to throw everyone off.
when someone says Dave, they don't really know you.
Yeah,
Is that's
true.
that okay?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, but only my friends call me David.
Okay. David, it is.
David. That's
Good
a big
to know.
presumption there.
Well,
Ben.
I didn't say you think of me as a friend. That's how you find out.
That's how you think of me.
Yes.
Aw,
See,
we are friends.
I
We
thought
are
so.
friends.
You know,
We are friends.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Monday.
It's kind of overcast.
I was expecting
Compared
warmer.
to yesterday, I was expecting it to be warmer today.
Yeah, I this California boy has been enjoying
That sunny, the
sun
sunny February.
This
Tara
winter.
told me on Sunday, she goes, I know we're not supposed to love this weather. She's like, but I like this weather.
I knew Tara was my
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, she's your people.
Yeah.
She's like, if winters are like, she's like, I can handle winters like this in Colorado.
You know, I get all the arguments. You know, we need the water. I definitely get the argument,
Fire.
like for fire
Yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
for just using water, having usable water too. But I also I do feel for the mountain resorts.
Mm-hmm.
That's real.
Tourism.
I would
Tourism's
love-
down.
Yep.
Colorado.
Yep. I would love for it to snow a ton up there. You could just dump
And then be nice
and
down
be
here.
60 here. Is
Yeah.
that possible? Can
Which
we do
sometimes
that?
it does work that way.
Occasionally, not
Yeah.
often.
We don't want to let the world know that Denver is actually a mild climate.
No, it's terrible here.
Yeah, it's awful. We want to
the
be
worst.
like we'll call it Iceland.
Yeah. I was going to say Wisconsin, but same thing. Really. I don't know anything about Wisconsin, so I don't know what I'm saying. Hey, Centered Podcast, this is not where we talk about the weather.
No,
We talk about
Sometimes
faith
we talk
in
about
real
the
life.
weather.
What we talk
Yeah.
about, there's nothing really off limits.
nothing off limits here.
Yeah, but faith in real life. If the weather affects our faith, we're going to talk about it. But we might talk about it even if it doesn't. Sometimes we got a little nonsense as well. And I wanted to say two things as
Okay.
it relates to last Sunday.
Whoa.
First thing,
Yes.
I am as cute as I think I am. You said turn to your neighbor or whatever and tell them you're not as cute as you think you are. I looked at Dave Wade
Yeah.
and we both agreed that we are as
You
cute as
are
we
as
think
cute.
we
Okay.
are. So,
Okay.
just putting it out there. I'll let the audience decide.
Sometimes I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll let the audience decide if that's an indication of low self-esteem or arrogance.
Okay.
We'll let you decide. That was the first thing. The second thing is, do you feel like you should apologize to Jeff Kaiser for calling him out, not just in the volunteer service, but in
The actual
service?
It was kind of his fault. He moved. He moved.
It moved.
And then he spoke after already experiencing it in the volunteer service. So
He
I
did
don't-
set
yeah.
himself up for it.
Yeah. The answer's no.
Okay. No, I actually was hoping it
100%.
was no, but
But Jeff,
had
I
to
love
ask.
you and I thank you. You know what I love about Jeff is he promotes participation in our services. He does. He's a champion
He does.
for participation.
you can, even when he's not on stage,
Oh,
you can hear him
you can hear
singing.
him. You can hear him
You can be on
singing.
the other side of the
Yep.
room.
Yep.
You'll hear him.
He claps. He talks back
Yeah,
when
man.
I talk to the crowd.
I talk
love it.
back, but
Yeah.
that's different.
yeah.
I did at one point. You said you were talking about being naked and unashamed, and so I literally started like undressing, and then he said, "No, not a nudist calling." I was like,
Oh,
Lauren can
yeah.
vouch for me.
That joke didn't land as well as I thought
It landed
was going
with me.
to land.
I
Did
was,
it land
I
with
was
you?
taking,
Yeah.
I was taking my
Dude, everybody
shirt
looked
off.
at me like it was like dead silence. Like, blink. I got the blinks.
I
I'm
think
like,
it was because
never mind.
You you seemed emotional in that moment. So what I was curious, like, were you using the comedy to like get like
Levity,
levity, or was it to help you? Like, okay, I got to keep going. I don't know. I wasn't sure, but it was a hard. It was a hard left.
That's my problem. That's what you're telling me is that was a delivery problem.
I think so.
Okay,
it was a good joke.
Okay, I thought it was a good joke. I thought it was funny,
you, but
yeah, Adam and Eve weren't starting the first nudist colony. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Okay, well, those are my two things. That's my cutting room floor.
There you go. You had those two things baking.
I had to get it out.
Baking overnight.
I had to get it out.
No, it was a fun weekend, man.
It was a good weekend. It was a really good Sunday. And but we know, in fact, you literally said this is going to have to be in the podcast. So the question is, what did you not have time to get to? What is on the cutting room floor?
Dude, no, I got one thing before the Jeff Kaiser and the nudist thing.
Oh.
Dude, when Lauren invited people to come forward and respond to God and have freedom, that was a beautiful moment in our service this weekend. So if you weren't there, it was like this beautiful moment where people had an opportunity to respond during worship, like with their whole selves, like bring their whole selves forward. And it was just really neat to see that. Love that.
Well, and because this is my wife and I know her, I thought was really cool is that act of inviting people to do that for her was being naked and risking shame.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not something she like normally does, but she just felt like the Spirit led her to do it, which made it to me even more powerful. And, we were just talking about it before. She's like, I don't want to. She's like, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. I don't know if I should do this. And I was like, well, if you're forcing it, don't do it. But if you feel like the Spirit's prompting you, it's not going to be awkward. It's going to be great.
It wasn't awkward. It was beautiful. It was a Spirit-filled moment. And it makes me like it even more that that's the conversation that was had before that. And so shout out to Lauren. She's an amazing worship leader. We appreciate her.
Pretty great wife, too. Just saying.
So I didn't have a lot, except there was this one key part in the sermon that I didn't get to which is funny that the whole sermon was like centered on this one moment that I didn't do.
Really?
Which is crazy. But okay.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm going to get us there. And I was banking on the whole thing being like, this is the center, and my big thing is like, I love connecting New Testament and Old Testament. And I love showing how Jesus actually came to reverse the curse, right? Not just give us hope for heaven, not just to, salvation for soul. Like all those things are true and beautiful, but actually the work that Jesus did on the earth was a reversal of what sin had broken. And so there's opportunities for us to live in freedom, which is what Jesus said. It is for freedom that I have set you free, that people really can have the devastating effects of sin in their lives reversed by the power of Jesus Christ and his resurrection in their lives. And so I think it's really important that we connect the Old Testament story and the New Testament story.
What's such a need?
Yeah.
But I think and I think we were talking about this morning a little bit, just like, it seems a little like grand, like the language, and like sometimes it's actually it can create distance for people, right? Like, whoa, like, and you've mentioned this stuff before, like, man, freedom. Like, I'm just trying to pay my mortgage. I'm just trying to, and so like the idea of freedom, but it's like that is like actually at the root of all of these other issues.
Yeah.
And so it's
vital.
It's
the
vital.
liberation story of God's people is at the heart of redemption and what God is doing. And we don't use liberation language. We understand it, but we don't use it in everyday life. And for most of us, it's not really a part of our story, unless you were, like black in a Jim Crow area, or you're Jewish and Nazi, you know what I mean? Like we don't really have these like pictures of being enslaved and oppressed and then having someone come in and set us free, but that's really where all of us are because of sin and brokenness in the world, is that we find ourselves oppressed by sin. And Jesus wants to move in and bring liberation from that sin. And really what Genesis does is help us understand like that sin story, what sin is, how sin broke the world, how sin breaks us, and how that plays out in our everyday lives. And so really I didn't have a chance to get here, but let me set this up. If you're just tuning in, we this weekend we talked about Genesis 3, which is the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. God tells them not to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a serpent, a snake, comes in and deceives Eve into eating that. And Eve invites her husband into eating that. And from that one act of disobedience to God, rebellion to God, man, things started to crumble apart.
Yes.
And one thing that is important to understand about the way that sin works is sin's effects are both immediate. We see that in, Adam and Eve's, maybe not in ways that people think, right? Like God said, you'll die.
Right.
But he was talking holistically. It wasn't just like they were going to croak, and die, like bodily death. But we saw all kinds of death happen. First and foremost, we saw a death happen between Adam and Eve and their relationship to God, which is really what that
like
biggest
a death of intimacy.
is. Yeah, death of intimacy. They're hiding from God,
Right?
Where they walked with Him in the coolness of day. It's the first time, I didn't get to talk about this, it's the first time that fear is mentioned in the Bible. And so
we were afraid.
Yeah, you were afraid. They were afraid of what God would think or what that would mean for them in their relationship with God. And so, it created a sense of from freedom to fear, which I think a lot of, and fear makes us do really stupid stuff.
Yes.
Say stupid things, make bad financial decisions, make bad choices. Fear is a really controlling factor, which is why a lot of the tactics used to get something done in this cultural moment is fear.
Absolutely.
So, people use fear to get ratings. People use fear to get purchases, like the fear of loss, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not having those types of things. Fear gets used like in our economic system and our real estate system. Like it's all fear driven. So fear drives a lot of things. And it's interesting that fear was introduced because of sin, because of trying to live life apart from God.
Yeah.
The result of that is fear coming in. But then you see the relationship between not just Adam and Eve and God, but Adam and Eve with one another, right? They start blaming one another,
blame
fingers at
shifting
one another,
going.
blame shifting. They feel uncomfortable with one another. And so now their nakedness has turned into like shame and covering because there's maybe comparison or expectations and fear again involved in that relationship with one another. And then you see the biggest thing that you see is God's relationship to creation. And here's what's interesting that we didn't get a chance to talk about is that Adam and Eve were explicitly given the authority over creation to subdue it, right?
Yes.
To work it, to have authority over it. And yet here we have creation, the serpent, of all of God's creation, was the crafty of all of God's creation. Now the serpent is over the woman and the man. There is this power. So there's this thing that we're actually given this authority, and now we're actually we're in a posture of submission to the thing that we were actually supposed to have authority over. And so all that to say is really quickly, there is all of this distortion of reality that happens, and it's at first glance when you read it, you're like, you might not recognize that as brokenness, but it is brokenness. And then the rest of the Bible, it shows how that brokenness gets to work itself out through culture, humanity. You see corrupt, not just corrupt people, corrupt relationships, but then you see these entire cities and civilizations have systemic corruption based on those four things: a broken relationship with God, a broken relationship with themselves, the shame, a broken relationship with one another, and then a broken relationship with creation, putting those things in the right and proper place. And so I've taught this before, but I just wanted to make it clear, like that's the framework that we're looking at when we're talking about rebellion and like what sin actually is. So pause. What do you think?
Man, I think it's not the way that we usually hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I think it's, we've talked about this too, like the Western mind is just so like, you know, linear, black and white, literal, give me the formula, whatever. And so it's like sin equals death. And we are able to like grasp the idea that it's like a spiritual death as opposed to just a physical death. So we're able to latch onto that. But like the implications of it seem much more elusive.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just this idea of like, yes, it's a spiritual death, but what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually look like? Because, and this is starting to shift, I think, in culture. Culture's getting a lot more spiritual.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, or, you know, in the past, it's been much more like logic. Give me logic, give me like, so what is that, like spiritual world? It's just like this thing that we almost ignore in favor of what we can understand.
Yeah.
And so we don't actually get into what a spiritual death means and leads to and the implications. And they actually lead to really logical implications.
Yeah.
But we just ignore it. And we just go, well, there's this spiritual death thing I don't really understand. I just know it's bad. And I think it's easy to ignore.
Yeah.
When we don't understand it or don't think about it.
Yeah. And then when we define sin as having a devastating effect, not just on the like relationship with God piece, but also like on the psyche of what it means to be human, on our relationships, on the psyche of how we interact with the world around us, and the implications of that working itself into actual culture and systems and governments and things like that. Like what I hope people see is that sin is a bigger issue than sometimes we give it credit for.
Right.
And when we reduce sin to morality, we miss the reason why Jesus Christ is actually such good news. Right?
Yeah.
Like if it's just like, oh, God, you know, God doesn't like, you know, and we have all these stupid things like, you know, like cussing or, you know, drunkenness, dancing. Yeah, you do dancing or, you know, like we have all of these, like we've minimized sin to kind of like these moralistic behaviors that, you know, are sometimes can seem arbitrary or subjective or, you know, what we do. And when we don't pull back and understand kind of the nature of sin is simply trying to live life apart from God. And when we do that, this is how things like genocide and war and the type of greed that leads to oppression and like it's that big of a deal.
Well, and I was going to say too, we also narrow it not just to moralistic behavior, but to personal sin. And so we eliminate how it affects the world around us, how it affects others. We just are so focused on ourselves. And so, man, one, it's easy to just go, you know what? Life's pretty good. I don't need God.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to get there, but also like when we do come to faith, we're so focused on just our own personal sin, we miss this larger picture and the holistic nature of what sin is, but actually maybe more important for us, like what healing is.
Yeah. True. That's huge. And healing for us individually, but also communally, societally. You know, like all of these things are a part of God's redemptive plan for the world. And if we don't appropriately understand sin, then we're going to be like, you know, we're going to cheapen the reality of what Jesus Christ actually came to do, you know, and it's, I joke and say, you know, I don't cuss or chew or date girls who do, but that's kind of what we've reduced
it down to.
Morality like to. And it's not that, it's a whole. One of the things that's really cool is like we've over spiritualized certain words. And so righteousness in the ancient world was just simply being in right relationship with God and others. That's what righteousness is, being in right relationship with God and others. Self-righteousness is when we make ourselves right based on our deeds and what we do, right? Which has nothing to do with God or others. It has to do with ourselves, right? That's what self-righteous, trying to find righteousness with yourself, and it's backwards. That's not the way it was meant to be. And so, that's the reason. So I wanted to start out there because you don't, in 35 minutes, you don't have enough time to like frame all of that out.
Right, really flesh it all out.
And my hope is that we would understand why this conversation is so important. If we don't understand the depth of sin and the scope of sin, we're never going to appreciate the depth of redemption that Jesus Christ has brought in this earth, the far-reaching effects of righteousness that is brought to us in Jesus Christ.
Well, it goes back to where we started, you making fun of Jeff. The whole idea of what is the most important piece of the puzzle, the box top, right? So like if we go back to just that central idea, if you had the wrong box top, imagine trying to put that puzzle together.
It's hard.
You're like, what? Yeah. Like, I don't even see this color on here.
The colors are different.
And so having the roadmap, if you would, having this foundational guide to life is essential, and getting it right is essential.
Yeah.
If we get it wrong, then we wind up building the wrong puzzle, building our foundation on the wrong, or building our lives on the wrong foundation, and we wind up somewhere completely different than God ever intended.
Yeah. And then what we did is then we brought it down to understanding how the cycle of sin works in both culture and our individual lives, where we move from a place of delight to distortion, to distrust, to this desire. And two things that I want to point out and just communicate. We were born into a world of desire, and I don't think that there's anything innately wrong with desire. But I do want to point out that Adam and Eve were in, and this is the Psalm 23, this recapturing of this the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, or I lack nothing, right? That's the language.
The Samuel passage that you read at the end, like if that wasn't enough, I would have given you more. I would
give you even more. That they were born into that world where they lacked nothing. There was nothing left to desire, right? Like they were fulfilled.
They had everything they needed.
We're born into spiritual disconnection, which creates lack in our life. And so for us, there's nothing wrong with desire. Desire is not a bad thing.
It's natural.
It's natural. It's all a part of the human condition that we have. Where things go wrong is when you're convinced, you can almost work it backwards, right? Where it goes from like there's a sense of like, okay, we have this desire. I don't trust X, Y, and Z to fulfill this desire, right? So I live in this distorted reality of where I'm going to get filled, and then I'm satisfied with a false delight, right? So when we work it backwards in our own life, this is where we find ourselves in, and we keep going through this cycle. And Jesus really came to break that cycle so that the deepest desires of our hearts can get met in the right way. And I believe this beyond a shadow of a doubt that when we act out in rebellion or when we live under the curse, what's happening is we're simply trying to get our real needs met in wrong ways.
Right.
So I have a need to be loved.
Absolutely.
That comes out in all kinds of weird ways in my life. It can come out with, all kinds of different sexual partners. It can come out with pretending, like creating a persona. It can come out with trying to find success and achievements and doing all these things like that. A real need to be loved.
Right.
Now it's you're trying to get that need met in wrong ways.
Well, and this is a little bit tangential, but like if you understand like the Enneagram, for example, and so you have these 9 different basic types of people, but where does it come from? It comes from the way that something happens in your formative years, and it's how you learn to interact with the world and like almost survive.
Totally.
It like if we were to break it down to this, it's like it's how you find love and acceptance and how you navigate the world to get there. And so, in the Enneagram, you have, it's benign, it's not good or bad to be creative.
Yeah.
And that's how you like see the world and manage the world around you. It's not bad necessarily to achieve, but when your achievement is the thing that gives you praise and gives you acceptance, gives you love, then it forms these cycles of, where we are meeting a good need the wrong way.
Yeah. And then these temporary needs become our ultimate things. And what we end up doing is we become slave to those things because it's like you're always chasing that false high. Which is what like heroin addiction. That's what they say. Like the first one, with heroin, you never get as high as your first time. And so the reason why it's so addictive is because you're always trying to chase that one feeling that you can never ever get again. And this is what these false fulfillments actually are. And God he desires to be the thing that meets our needs, that fulfills us, and we're created to be fulfilled by God.
Yeah, he has the ability to do that too. It's not
Exactly.
just that he desires it for us, but he is the right source
Yes.
to meet that need.
Yeah. And this isn't 100% analogy, but when you meet someone who grows up in a loving family, they tend to act differently. They're a lot less needy and a lot less like looking for attention. They're secure in themselves in ways that someone who grew up in an unloving family, right, trying to get those needs. And I remember I remember experiencing that in college. I grew up in a very broken home, and I remember like sitting next to like younger adults who grew up with normal families. And dude, they were so different. The way they reacted to things, the way they saw themselves, the way they, and
there's like a confidence.
I was utterly aware of how different that person was to me in those moments. And so, I just think that understanding that cycle in our own lives of delight, distortion, distrust, and desire, and then reverse engineering it and just seeing how we go is really important. Yeah.
A fifth D, death. Because you've got that whole pattern.
Yeah.
What did it lead to?
Yeah.
Death. Spiritual, but death.
Totally.
Another D for you.
That's another D. What
kind of pastor would I be?
Yeah, which is really that desire is a sense of death, right? Like there's a need there that's not being met. That is there. And one of the things that I hope it does is it humanizes our brokenness. We don't need to over spiritualize the way that things are broken, and we don't need to be ashamed in like a way that prevents us from being honest about what is going on inside of us, because the only way that we can find healing is when we bring our brokenness to God in the light, like walk in the light,
and our true brokenness. We even curate with God. Yes, we curate our image with each other, with social media, with whatever. Like we're I think culturally speaking, we're masterful at this.
Yeah,
but we also curate our image towards God. And dude, if I'm not being real with God, like how is he going to meet my real need when I won't actually present it to him?
Yeah, and you close yourself off, and it doesn't matter if it's a sexual brokenness, a relational brokenness, if it's a biological brokenness with addiction, a lot of things that happen there. If there is an identity brokenness, right? If we don't demonize our brokenness and we actually humanize it, it gives people more permission to walk in the light. And that's what we often do. We experience a ton of shame from our brokenness. And here's the thing. We all sin both volitionally, like we make choices,
right?
But we also sin because we were born into sin. Like we grew up in the families we've broken in and situations we had. We've had things done to us that shape like wrong patterns of thinking. If you've ever experienced abuse, like it's hard to trust, right? People who were supposed to love you and care for you and protect you actually were the ones that hurt you. Like, so we all have these things in us that are holding us back from getting our needs met in the right ways. And we need to be, the church should be a place where we can come in and be like, dude, we're all broken. I get it. Like, it's okay to be broken here. Like, and the best way that we're going to become whole is when we can create a space of honesty instead of comparison and judgment.
No, and that you went exactly where I was hoping you would go, because you talked about that in the sermon, and I thought it was like, you said it was like a side thing. I actually don't think it's. I think it's like
central,
like a central thing.
It was more connected to the naked and unashamed than I actually thought. Like, in even in the moment,
because I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've done it. I've been on all the sides of it. Like, so this isn't me like heaping condemnation. It's just like, it's an observation. Like, the church sometimes can be so judgmental towards our brokenness that it leaves no room for the person to find healing there.
Yeah.
And so if the church rejects you because of your brokenness, you're going to look for acceptance elsewhere. And you're going to find it in communities that are broken communities, oftentimes promoting and like perpetuating that same brokenness. And so like we're actually sometimes the greatest repellent to healing, because we are literally pushing people into spaces where they're not only going to stay broken, but they're going to get more broken.
Yeah.
And it stinks.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, one of the psychological effects of sin is a misjudgment of others and ourselves. And we tend to live in a lot of times we condemn others because it's the thing we hide behind because we ourselves are condemned.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's that, I don't know if it's an old adage necessarily, but it's that idea of the thing we are most offended by is usually our deepest, darkest secret or sin.
Yeah, there's a Key and Peele skit. It's probably not appropriate. Don't look it up because it's probably not for a pastor.
No,
yeah, but it's hilarious because it shows a bully if he was honest about the way he's bullying others, and so like he goes up to this kid and he like calls him all these names and he's like the guy being bullied is like, why are you saying that? And then the bully goes out and he says, well, it's because my parents actually don't treat me right. And he's just honest about what is really going on, and we have a saying, hurt people.
Yeah.
And anytime you see something where someone is in a place of judgment or condemnation, it's usually because there's some sort of deep hurt or hidden sin that is going on in their own lives that they're trying to cover up and distract from,
Well, I've often told my kids, like, that type of behavior says a lot more about them than it says about you.
Yeah.
It points to their brokenness and their hurt, and yes, it still hurts, but to be able to recognize that also is incredibly helpful.
Yeah,
to be able to go, okay, wait a minute, the things that person said, maybe there's some truth, maybe whatever, but like to separate what they said from their brokenness and be able to recognize, like, oh no, this person is broken, this person is hurt. That's why they're coming at me like that. And it can be an incredibly helpful tool in just navigating relationships and broken people.
Yeah. And then we get to, so moving more towards the thing, we get to that idea where Peter talked about, we had the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, So we kind of have this series of things that going on. And in Eve's situation, the serpent came in, and because there was distortion in their lies, it made her believe that something was lacking in her life. So she had desire for the first time.
Right.
And so she was like, she wanted what she didn't have. She wanted what she didn't have, and then she saw. So that's the lust of the eyes, wanting what you didn't have, and then she had the lust of the flesh. Like that's like like I need that. You know, it moves from like, oh, I don't have that to I need that, I want that, and then she reached out and took it and grabbed a hold of it, and that was the beginning of the end for that delight story, because what was delight then turned to destruction or death, as you so aptly
thank you
said. But one of the things we don't understand is that taking what isn't yours. Like that's not yours to take. And there is something about when you go back and look at the law, a lot of the law that was given in the 10 Commandments is all about not taking what's not yours. Your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's property, your neighbor, like coveting what you don't have, and then reaching and then putting yourself in a place of authority that says, I have the right to take.
Right.
When we just heard a story about everything belongs to God, God shares his authority and responsibility with them. You know what I mean? Like he's not holding back. He's not like they're important to the story and they have a role to play. And they're saying, and then there was the one thing that God said you don't have the authority to take and to do. And that was the thing that Eve just had to take. I had to have it. And then I put myself in a position to take it. And oftentimes this is that is a physical picture of our spiritual reality with our relationship with God. Yeah. We're like giant kids that are like,
mine.
I see that it's good, desire in the flesh, and so I reach out and I'm just going to take it, like a kid in a candy jar, that's there. And so I think that's a really good like image to have in our minds, and it's also really good when we're trying to figure out question. When you have a desire, it's okay to have a desire. You have to ask yourself a couple questions. Like what is the root of that desire? What is missing? What do I really want? And it can feel like, oh, I want to buy that pair of shoes. This is my sin. I'll talk to you about my sin right here, right? I have
Nikes.
I have a shoe problem. I see it. But it's like I have that desire and I have to ask my question, why do I want that? Like, where's that desire coming from? What am I trying to fill that's lacking in me? Is this really like an innocent like thing that I just light? Is this a delight?
Right.
Or is this a lack? Is this me trying to feel something
desire
that's not there? That's there, and God doesn't mind us delighting in things at all.
Right.
But when we delight in things that are trying to fill a void that it cannot fill, that's where destruction starts.
Is the shoe going to do something for me that God has not done?
Yep.
That's when it becomes.
Or is it going to give me something that I don't have that God has not told me I should have it?
Right.
Like street cred. And then so that's kind of how that whole thing went down. Now, what we get to the really cool part is when we begin to see the reversal of the Saul desired and took reality when Jesus goes into the wilderness, which by the way, that wilderness is like, there's the word that's used there when it says Jesus is led into the wilderness. It was desolation mixed with vegetation. So it was like a garden. It was like a desolated garden.
Oh, like a desert garden or something?
Which is already an image for what was lost in Eden. It got ravaged, right? This place for God and man to dwell got ravaged. And so Jesus gets led by the Holy Spirit, by the way, into this desolate garden where he's tempted by the devil.
Right.
And then you start going through these temptations that begin to reverse the damage that was done in the garden. And so one of the things that you see is where Eve and Adam failed to resist the devil's temptations in Eden, Jesus succeeds in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Which is really what we're supposed to see is the victory of Christ and the beginning of the reversal of what's happening. And these three temptations in the garden are meant to reverse three major sins, which could be the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Or it could be Genesis chapter 3, which is Eden taking the fruit. Genesis chapter 6 of what humanity had become in the time of Noah before the flood. Or Genesis chapter 11, which is the Tower of Babel, right? And God scattering the language that was there. All of these, my point is that all of these imagery that we get with Jesus in the wilderness is a shadow to the Genesis story.
Yeah, it's a reversal.
It's a reversal of it. And any first century person would have immediately picked up on the themes of each one of the temptations that kind of mirrored the Genesis story that's there. So I say this for one reason. One, the Genesis story is vitally important to our understanding of the gospel. Like we need it, and that's why we spend time in it. But two, that Jesus didn't just make a way for us to get to heaven. Jesus began the unraveling of the curse. And that's where we are, is we're in the midst of the unraveling. And we get to experience both the beauty of freedom, but also the pain of prison, until that end day. But there is freedom to be experienced in unraveling. So I want to walk through these temptations.
Okay.
One was turn stones into bread, right? Where the devil, like Jesus is hungry, he's been fasting for 40 days, and he's like, hey, look, if you're hungry, just take these stones. You're God, take these stones, turn them into bread.
Easy.
You did it for the Israelites in the wilderness. Why can't you do it in this wilderness?
Yeah.
Really, it's like, are you really Jesus? But one of the things that Satan was tempting Jesus to do was to use his power and authority for selfishness.
Right.
Which is what sin does. It bends everything inwards. It makes everything about the self, right? Adam and Eve, in all their agency, all their authority, all of their dominion over creation, and in that moment, they used their authority for themselves instead of for the mission and commission that God had put them, fill the earth with the glory of God, bear the image into the world. And so that's the first temptation we see. And then what does Jesus do? Is he goes back and he starts quoting scripture,
right?
Deuteronomy, which is the embodiment of the law that gave him, which is encapsulated in the garden when God says, you may eat of any tree, but do not eat of this one. Right? This is the law that was introduced there. And so there's this reversal that happens there. And so instead of using your power, your agency, your gifting, or your talent for yourself, Jesus uses it for the sake of others, for the liberation of God's people, which is absolutely beautiful, which we get that opportunity to now in him. The second one was the gaining of the kingdoms of the world. And so this had to do with possessions, not self-satisfaction, but accumulating. And we have this, because of sin and brokenness and this desire, this sense of lack, we live with this accumulation mindset.
Really?
The more I have, the better I am. The more I have, the better I am. And what this happens is, instead of giving ourselves away and giving stuff away and being generous, we live to build personal kingdoms for our own welfare, and sometimes even at the cost of other people's welfare. We'll take what's not ours without care for the impact or effect that has on other people. And this is why, man, we tend to be so selfish and short-sighted when it comes to decision making. We typically ask, like, what's the best thing for me? And then even on top of that, we'll be like, well, what's the best thing for whatever tribe or people I represent or I'm most comfortable with? And very rarely we ask things like, what does it look like to bear the image of God to the whole world? And I think one of the problems with the current state of the Western world is we live in a very, like, I don't know what the word is, but like it's kind of like ethnocentric, but nationally, ethnocentric. Like we're so about us, like this thing that we have a hard time thinking about, like the rest of the world. We're very myopic in our view of culture. And then the third one was about power and control, and Satan says that basically he was telling him to throw himself off a cliff, and the angels will come and rescue. It's about importance. This power and control and image, and the way the world and
show
everything
your
revolves
value
around me. Yeah, show your value type of deal that's there. And the beauty is that Jesus resists every temptation. And here's why. Because he trusts that God is enough.
He lacked nothing.
He lacks nothing. Life without lack. And,
even though he had no food,
no food.
Like those temptations were real.
Totally. He had no possessions.
Right.
Yeah. The world despised him at the moment. They didn't recognize him. He came from an unassuming town, did not see him as important. But yet, he had nothing that the world said he needed to be successful, yet trusted the Father. God was enough in that thing. And it's a beautiful picture of what we fail to do in our sin and in our brokenness, and what he came to change about what it means to be human in the world. And I do think there's small ways that we can consider our own lives, and how does the person and work of Jesus Christ begin to unravel the curse that we placed ourselves under.
Yeah. And I like the way you say that, like, begin.
Yes.
I think so often we think we just have to like flip a switch, magically everything shifts, and that's just not real.
It's not true. Yeah.
It can happen. Power, God does powerful things, but for most of us, it really is just this like small steps towards trust, towards faith, towards not trying to meet our real needs in wrong ways.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that was it. That was all I.
That was it.
All I missed.
Just 45 minutes.
There's a whole other sermon in there.
I know, we had a whole other sermon. All right, we should have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
So it's always good. We take a break from the serious, and we have a little fun, just for funsies.
Just for funsies.
So I was thinking about this. Genesis 3.
Yep.
The serpent, he doesn't show up with like horns and a pitchfork, and he's actually quite cunning.
Yeah.
And he shows up with a question: did God really say? And so he twists the truth like just enough to make it look reasonable or desirable, right? And so it got me thinking about stories or movies where we start to root for the bad guy, where the bad guy sounds like the good guy.
Yes.
And which I actually think these are some of the best stories.
Yeah. They're really popular right now, too.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I always think it's interesting. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself because I'm literally rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. I know that they want me to do that. I don't know if I should or shouldn't. But anyways, so for today, what is a movie or a story or a character where you find yourself rooting for the villain, even though like they're in the wrong?
Yeah.
So I'll go first to give you a second to think. Mine is I love Loki.
Dude, I was going to say Loki. I was going to say it. He
Good
is
thing I
a
went first.
brilliant one. Yeah, he's a brilliant one. I got another one,
the God of Mischief, first of all. What a crazy name. I loved him in the Avengers movies and then the series. And the series, he kind of becomes the good guy.
He does become the good guy.
And it's a really fascinating.
But it's always ambiguous,
Always. And it's intentionally ambiguous. Yeah. But he is one of my favorites. He's so interesting. He's like funny. Like just draws me in, and he just does things that are like pretty rough though. He betrays his brother and justifies it. And he says, what did he say? I never wanted the throne. I only wanted to be your equal. And so sympathy. Like he's just playing it like a fiddle.
I just want one of you, brother.
I just want to be a brother to you, and
Totally.
like he replaces Odin and he does he does these terrible things. And I like this quote. He says, I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Yeah.
So he's essentially, and it is a, mythological type, genre. He's a god.
Yeah.
But he is deifying himself as he declares, and he's really, when he says that, he's saying like, I'm destined to rule over earth.
Yeah.
And so bad dude does some good things, but I love him.
Yeah. No, Loki's great, dude. He's a great character. And there's so much in Loki's character that we can identify in our own brokenness. That just comes out in like really normal, like human ways, selfishness or, cynicism or,
just seizing these
Totally.
opportunities.
Yeah.
The
he's
Tesseract's right there. And he's
opportunistic.
very opportunistic.
Yep.
Yes.
Loki's great. Really in the DC world, Batman was the OG. Like he was the one that was like ambiguous, and he did good, but his motives were a mess, right?
Right. Oh,
angry,
dude, he's totally broken.
and it was, some of it seemed like selfish, and he had his own like demons that he was wrestling as he's doing all of these, like good things. He,
do you have a good I'm Batman?
No, I don't.
Oh, come on.
I don't.
Let's give it a shot.
I don't know.
I'm Batman. Like,
There
you
you
gotta give it a shot.
I'm
just
Batman.
Yeah.
All right. No, but the best of that is Hellboy.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with
Oh,
Hellboy.
dude, Hellboy's so good. So basically, it's this devil creature that's like spawned from hell and adopted by like this religious family, raised up in like this guy in there. And so the whole idea is nurture versus nature. Like, can you nurture?
Can you be
the
spawned
bad?
from hell?
Yeah, spawned
but
from
nurtured
hell.
into love.
And dude, it's so amazing because this whole time Hellboy is wrestling with his own identity of whether he's good or bad,
Okay.
And like that's kind of the whole premise.
A lot of like empathy.
for him, but then also like he's a spawn from hell. He's like he's
Spawn of Satan.
He's spawn of Satan.
Yeah.
And he comes out. And so that's the one.
a good one.
If there's three of them, if you want to go and get your
Dive
Hellboy
into
fix.
him. I like the Batman one.
Yeah.
I've always been a Batman. That was actually, Batman was the first like superhero movie that I remember being like, whoa, this is really good.
Yeah.
The Jack Nicholson and
Because
Bruce
it's
Willis.
because of the ambiguity
or not
of
Bruce
his,
Willis. What was his- Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, that was good.
That was
That was
really
a good
good.
Batman. Okay, back into it. I got some questions.
Okay.
Not too many, but just a couple. All right, we go. I want to go back to the big idea. You said sin is not just breaking rules. It is about breaking trust, and that every act of rebellion is actually a misplaced attempt to find life apart from God. We've been talking about this. We've talked about it before. But it got me thinking about repentance. So when we look at sin through the lens of relationship rather than just morality, behavior management.
Yep. I did this, God's mad.
Right.
Yeah.
How does that change repentance?
Yeah. Man, one, we talked about sin bending everything inwards. And so oftentimes our connection to immorality is justified through I'm not hurting anyone.
Yes.
And that's a lie.
Not true.
That is just simply not true. And it doesn't
Never
matter
true.
if it's like, pornography or like
Embezzlement, whatever.
whatever it is
White collar.
white collar.
Crime,
Like you're always affecting other people, and you're always putting a wedge between you and the most important relationships in your life, whether that's a relationship with others, yourself, God, or the creation that we're there, like we talked about. And so, I think that's really important for us to understand. And here's the other thing. with that, repentance requires a someone else who you've hurt. And so when you and this is the whole thing about true healing and bringing this is some things where like the 12-step program has really figured out like the psychological, emotional, even biological healing that takes place when you go to someone you've hurt and you ask for forgiveness. Yep. And listen, if you have like say you're married, and you have a hidden pornography addiction. Like, it's important that you don't just like, oh, I'm going to God, I'm confessing my sin, I'm be done with that and move away. One, that thing will still haunt you until you bring that thing into light. You need to go to the people that you've hurt by exercising that, whether it's a community, a spouse, whatever,
right.
Obviously a loving, trusting, caring place that gives you the freedom to do that. I mean, you don't just like go into McDonald's and be like, hey, everyone,
Twitter.
Because I think we don't oftentimes like recognize even the way we harm people. Man, when we're stuck in brokenness, like we don't show up for the people that we're called to show up for. Our family, our friends, our community, our church, like it never is just an individual issue.
Hurt people.
Hurt people. Always. And understanding the ways of it. And sometimes we don't get the full freedom that we're actually after is because we actually don't repent to the people we've actually hurt.
Yeah. No, that is good, because I do think, like I said, when we just personalize our sin, when we don't look at it relationally, whether it's through the lens of our relationship with God or with others, but certainly with both, we do tend to just focus on, I did the wrong thing, I need to make amends and be right. As opposed to, what do we teach our kids when they're like really little about saying I'm sorry?
Yeah.
It's like, you've broken this like relationship, and you go and you make amends. You say sorry because you want to have like a relationship that's healed.
Yeah.
And so we'll oftentimes do that with God, but not others.
Yeah.
And it's painful.
It is painful.
Because I think that's why we don't do it, right? We think, well, if I just make amends with God, I can go about my life, everything stays good, but it's not good.
Yeah.
It's haunting you.
Yes.
And so to actually go to the person, is it going to hurt? Yes. Initially, it's going to hurt more than the haunting, probably. But that's where you'll find freedom. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They did a Catholic study on sanctification, actually, is what the study was. And the Catholics have this thing where you can just go confess your sin to a priest, and then they'll give you some Hail Marys, and depending on how bad your sin is, depends on how many Hail Marys you do, and then you're resolved from that thing. But what's funny is the people who confessed their sin to a priest and relied on Hail Marys for forgiveness stayed in the patterns of that same cycle of sin for a lifetime, as opposed to people who went and confessed to the person that they were hurting or the people that are affecting, found freedom, found growth in that area of habitual sin. So they've actually done studies on these where there's also man, if it's just to a priest, there's probably some benefit to that too.
Yes, as opposed to nothing.
To doing nothing. But actually having like freedom from sin versus just like holding it back, I think are two totally different things.
Yeah, that's good. That's helpful. Go say I'm sorry to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
It'll be good.
See what's happened.
Okay. I want to talk. You mentioned Catholicism, the Western Catechism.
Yeah, Westminster.
Yeah. I said it wrong. Westminster Catechism. So, Freddie mentioned it, actually. You mentioned that Freddie mentioned it. The chief end of man is to glorify God and delight in Him forever. Now, most people, I think, and this is true in the church, emphasize glorifying God. doing something for him, right?
Yeah.
The second half, enjoying him forever, we tend to lose sight of.
Yeah.
But it does reframe everything, right? Because it's not about utility.
Yeah.
It's not about what I can do. It's not about performance. It's not about achievement. It's none of those things. It's about delight.
Yeah.
Going back to that word. So, how do you think culture has trained us to approach God as useful, like someone who does something for us, rather than beautiful, someone to adore? And how do we flip that and delight in God and therefore glorify Him in our delight?
Yeah, well, man, dude, I think a lot of this begins with our understanding of ourselves, and a lot of us don't. A lot of us experience the world as utilitarian.
Oh yeah,
like our usefulness determines our worth and value, like in the world. And one of the things that I think we need to understand more is that, man, God delights in us. Like He sees us as beautiful. He made us in His image, and so much so that He's committed to us in creation to seeing this whole recovery project through to the end. Like He's never given up on humanity. And I know people would be like, well, what about the flood? He still didn't. He preserved a family to continue the project going because He sees humans as beautiful. And man, He sees you as beautiful. Like whoever's listening to this, like God sees you as beautiful. And I think until we understand that reality, we're always going to treat God that way because we feel like our worth and value is only in our usefulness. And so we treat God that way, and we treat others that way too.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking is like our experience with others is hyper transactional.
Totally.
Like we talk about unconditional love, but I don't know that it really honestly exists. Like even the best marriages out there.
Yeah.
Like you stop holding up your end of the marriage, they all fall apart.
Yeah.
And so that's our experience when it comes to love or worth or value.
Not all marriages do that.
No.
I've seen marriages go through some pretty
No,
rough
not that
things,
you can't recover. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's where it leads.
It seems that way. Yeah,
direction.
that's the narrative
Yes.
for sure.
And
it feels that way.
And ultimately, it requires a coming together.
Yeah.
A restoration that happens there and that. But if that's our experience with others, we transport that to our relationship with God. And so that makes sense. What you were saying is if we see our value towards God, like we think that He sees our value as what we do for Him, then it's only natural that we would reciprocate that and view Him as the genie in the lamp and what can you do for me?
Yeah.
Whereas if we understood that God delights in us, then we could delight in Him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of essence of rooting our identity in what's true and combating the lies and creating. I think that's why it's really important to create what, was referred to at one time as beloved communities, where we can come in and we can not use one another, but love one another, appreciate one another, encourage one another, be safe for one another. Like community, having a community where it's not based in, man, this is a struggle with Western church, coming in because of all the needs that we have, and there's service opportunities, and in order to feel like we're being successful as a church, we got to have a lot of activity and all of this stuff, and I think we try really hard to combat that, but it's just a part of the culture that we're in, and it's hard. And man,
Very.
I want people to know more than anything in the world that people are not projects. People are, even right now, whatever condition they come in, whatever's going on in their lives, whatever sense of brokenness that they feel enslaved to, and however hurt and beat up and hung up they are in different stuff, that they are beautiful and worthy of love, and that's what it means to honor the image of God in creation. It's why we don't judge people by skin or status or any of that kind of thing.
Well, man, when we do that, it changes everything. It changes our relationship with the person. It changes the way that they see us. It changes their willingness. Like, you actually have the opportunity to speak truth and healing towards someone who you've already accepted just as they are.
Yeah.
You're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to, you're there to help them. You're there to love them. But as soon as they become a project, man, people's radar, boom, I know exactly what you're doing. I'm out. Yep. And so it changes that experience too. We lose the opportunity to love people well.
Yeah.
I think it's time for David's low-key obsession.
Let him cook. It's time for David's low-key obsession.
Well, we are in a building phase of the church right now, and a couple things that we are working on behind the scenes that, dude, I'm really stoked about, and think it's really important to bring stability to the church and to bring a sense of shared responsibility to the church. Is we have two things going on. One is, I don't know a lot of people. We need to do better at helping people understand that our church is governed by a body of elders. So it's not just like me making all the decisions. Like, we have a group of men that meet regularly.
I'd like to talk to these guys. I'm just kidding.
Really? Yeah. And we need to do better about getting that out. And so, which is beautiful. We have some very committed elder men who are on that board, and elder families, husbands and wives who are committed to the life of this church and the health of this church. But with that, we've created two other things. One is we're creating a deacon body, which is deacon. It literally means to serve in the dust, right? So it's just kind of this.
So
servant.
if you want glory, this ain't the job for you.
This ain't the job for you. But it's people who are like men and women who are biblically called and qualified to be able to support and serve the deepest needs of the church.
Yeah,
and
real needs. Yes.
Real needs that are there. And so we have a group of deacons who are helping with things like widow care and home and hospice care, and people who are having struggle, leaving the house for whatever reason, and making sure that our body's getting cared for there. We have people who are doing stuff around like helping us to care for our facility and be good stewards, and help with projects. We have a group of people that are helping with our finances, that we can make good decisions on benevolence and how we're helping people to grow and care for people in need. And so that I'm really excited about that. We're going to be introducing them at the end of the month. Yeah. But it's just a really stabilizing effect that shows that we're not just like a Sunday show, but we're a family of missionary servants that are loving and caring for one another, that we're learning how to like do it well and do it in a way that like honors God and cares for people and is structured, and it's not just about paid staff and things like that.
And do it together.
Do it together, as the church. And so do that. And then the other thing is we have a partnership class that we put together, and partnership is a way for us to bring unity and commitment around the mission and vision of Mosaic Church. And so this class happens, and it's an opportunity for people to opt in and make an official, for us to officially recognize those who want to partner with us in a deep way. And so just really excited about both of those things.
22nd?
22nd, February 22nd, yeah.
We were going to try to do it
on February 8th. And
February
I didn't know
8th,
it was a Super Bowl.
Super Bowl Sunday. Yeah.
Not a good choice.
Yeah, not maybe ideal.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, that's good. I went through, I enjoyed the 1/3 of the class I was able to stay for.
You left for softball. Shows your commitment.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we do this in real life? moving right along.
Yeah. Hashtag IRL. And if you don't know what that means, you must be old. You know, this in real life segment, man, more than anything, we need each other to process some of these things. And so, man, community.
Yep.
You know, it's like the old real estate thing. Location.
Ooh,
For me,
yeah.
it's community. Like,
It's good.
we need one another. We need to be doing life together. Man, hyper individualism is a real thing that we have to push back against.
Yes.
And we need to open ourselves up to others and let other people in on what's going on. And so, and it could look a million different ways. You know, here, it could be like a traditional life group. We do like small groups. That's what we do. There's Bible studies that connect, but there's friendships that are here to be made. It could look like just finding someone and inviting them into your story, you know, going and having coffee and just sharing life with other people. And we were not meant to shoulder this burden alone. That's why Adam needed Eve. It's not good for people to be alone. Yeah. And there was a mutual loving and caring partnership to live out their vocation as image bearers in God's world together. And we need that too. You know?
Yeah.
We need partnership in that.
And it's hard to find, which is, I think, part of why the church has spaces like life groups, because not everybody has a trusted friend.
Right.
That they can go to. And sometimes those kinds of friends can be hard to find, especially in the world that we live in today. And so, if you don't have that, like, let us know. Get into a group.
And if you're new here and you want to lead that, let me know. I'll train you.
We need leaders.
We need leaders.
Yes,
Yeah. We need
indeed.
to create more space for that to happen.
Yes. Okay. What's next, man? I feel like we're getting close to the end of the beginning.
In the beginning, there was the end. No, we're ending on promise, and one of the beautiful things that you see early on in the rebellion story is how quick God was to move towards humans. And we see it right there in the story I read on Sunday, but we're gonna see it patterned. That God pursues people and he promises to take all that sin destroys and make it whole again. And so we're going to look at the promise next week.
We don't want to miss that.
Don't want to miss that.
No.
Yeah.
It's kind of an incomplete story.
Totally without it.
that.
Yeah, without it.
Yeah, we're just like living this like rebellion and brokenness. Like, no, we need to get to the promise.
Yep.
That's the good news. All right, well, don't miss it.
Nope.
Hey, I don't think we've said this in a couple weeks. You should probably, if you like this podcast, dude, put it out there. Share it with somebody. You can text it to a friend. You can throw it up on your social media. You can rate a review. Always helpful. Kind of boosts the algorithm, if you would. And man, we're just grateful for you. You made it. You did it all the way through.
Hour,
Good
12
job.
minutes. Good job.
Good job. We're proud of you. And
love
we
you.
will see you next week.
Next week.
Thanks for listening to Centered. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. You can listen to Centered on your favorite podcast platform or watch on YouTube. To learn more about Mosaic or connect further, visit us online at welcometomosaic.com. See you next week.